Goblin of Greed was a wealthy dealer with many goblin minions under his command before he lost his money in an accident. With nothing left, Goblin of Greed attempts to get wealthy like he once was. He first tried earning money by becoming a beggar and using Pot of Duality. However, he found that the method was too slow for him to become wealthy. He then tried working in housekeeping service, but almost lost everything. He was fired and started to steal Jar of Greed and then Pot of Greed. Later, Goblin of Greed angered an important aristocrat, presumably by either being caught stealing the pot or offering him the stolen Pot of Greed. Goblin of Greed was then placed into slavery. Dark Scorpion burglars later tried stealing the wealthy man's money and Pot of Greed and somehow succeeded a bit. Goblin of Greed was on their tail but was interrupted. Goblin of Greed was able to retrieve the pot, but the spirit of the Pot of Greed was somehow released and started creating a twister that was absorbing cards into it and subsequently cursed Goblin of Greed. DHARC, the Dark Charmer, appeared and then somehow resealed or captured the spirit to prevent it from doing any further harm, and, in return, Goblin was turned to normal, but the Pot of Greed got broken in the process. Goblin of Greed was later fired when the aristocrat found the broken Pot of Greed and Goblin of Greed couldn't pay for it. While trying to find a new way to get wealthy, Goblin of Greed tried looking for a part-time job, one of which was mowing the lawn on a wealthy estate. However, he failed because of his pollen allergy. Goblin of Greed later lost all of his money by paying for the stolen and damaged Jar of Greed and Pot of Greed. Despite paying all of his money for the stolen and damaged goods, the store owner didn't accept the money and threw it back at Goblin, considering the money worthless. He then threw Goblin of Greed out of the store and temporarily got him arrested and imprisoned for stealing and damaging the merchandise. After Goblin of Greed was released, he would, at a later point, come into a bazaar in a desert where he tried to perform using the broken Pot of Greed and a sinister serpent. However, the sinister serpent he uses for the performance attacks him, which ruins the performance. Later, he would trade the slightly broken Pot of Greed for a Pot of Duality. The goblin that the Goblin of Greed made a trade with would then give him his payment in return. Rumors say he's still working in an abandoned dark factory. In the factory, there were 2 more Pot of Greeds and he tried to steal them. He succeeded in this and later sold off the pots for extra money.